the question of the origin of coffee is something quite interesting. Most people would not make a connection between coffee and Orientalism, but the way in which many people around the world think of coffee and cafes and the coffee culture has a connection with Orientalism, in the sense that they imagine that these things started in the West, they started in Europe, and then spread throughout the rest of the world. And that mirrors exactly what happens in the social sciences. Just as they think that the coffee culture started in the West and spread throughout the rest of the world, they think that, for example, sociology started in the West and spread throughout the rest of the world. But when we look at coffee and sociology, we find that it has origins elsewhere. So on coffee, coffee is said to have been discovered in Africa, particularly in Ethiopia, and by the 15th century it spread to the Arabian Peninsula, where there were cafes called makha. This comes from the Arabic word for coffee, tahwa. And it is said that coffee was first indulged in by Sufis because they knew that it had the property of keeping them alert and awake for many hours in order that they could practice Sufi rituals. So this was the situation in Arabia in the 15th century, particularly in South Arabia, in an area called the Hadramaut, where you had these Sufi orders or tariqas. Now by the 16th century, coffee had spread beyond the Arabian Peninsula to places like Syria, Turkey and Iran. And it is from there, particularly from Turkey, where it spread to Europe in the 17th century. And there's an interesting story, which may not be true. It's something of a legend, that during the Ottoman siege of Vienna in the late 17th century, the Ottoman soldiers, upon the conclusion of the siege, which was a failure, left bags of coffee for the Austrians to discover, and some of the Turkish, the Ottoman prisoners taught the Viennese how to make coffee, and that is how coffee is said to have spread among the Europeans. We don't know whether that's the way that coffee spread, but we do know it's most likely that it is through Ottoman European contact with the Ottomans that the Europeans learned about coffee and developed a taste for coffee. So the word coffee actually comes from the Arabic word tahwa. The Ottomans referred to it as kahve, and coffee, the English word coffee, or other European terms such as cafe or the Dutch coffee, are all derived from kahve, which in turn is derived from kahwa. So the preparation of coffee, the drinking of coffee, the culture of meeting in cafes, socializing over coffee, has multicultural origins. It involves Ethiopia, which was an Orthodox Christian society. It involves the Muslims, particularly the Sufi orders in the Arabian Peninsula. It involves the Ottoman Imperial Army, and so on and so forth. It has multicultural origins. But because we have historical amnesia, particularly in the colonized world, in the South, we forget these multicultural origins of coffee. So that's the connection between coffee and Orientalism, or the connection between coffee and Eurocentrism. We can say the same thing about sociology and many of the social sciences.